You want to be the only person who does what you do.
That's Jerry Garcia.
The one and only. And, it's a quote that sounds amazing. It's perfect for a poster or like a motivational coffee mug.
Yeah.
Being one of a kind.
A singular force, yeah.
But for so many people listening, especially if you're trying to build a business or a consultancy, that quote doesn't really feel inspiring. It honestly feels more like a taunt.
It can feel like a mountain you have no idea how to climb. Because, well, being one of a kind usually just means you're the bottleneck.
You are the bottleneck, exactly.
Yeah.
So here's the reality for the learner, listener we have in mind for these deep dives. You have skills. You have deep, real expertise. You might be the go-to person in your whole industry. But you are just stuck trading your time for money.
That classic trap.
You want to scale, you want to grow, but all that critical knowledge is locked up inside your head. It's what we call the expert's dilemma.
And that's a really dangerous place to be. Your value is, completely tied to your physical presence, to your hours, your direct input. You just have a hard ceiling on what you can do.
You literally can't double your income without doubling your exhaustion.
Which is a recipe for burnout, not for success.
So today's mission is to break through that ceiling. We are doing a deep dive into two really massive concepts. The idea of the personal monopoly and the engine that makes it run, which is called productization.
And we've pulled together a really interesting stack of sources for this. We're combining a viral essay by David Perel, Build a Personal Monopoly, with a much more technical piece from Tech Republic on knowledge transfer. And this is the real heavy hitter, a 60-page master's thesis on consulting scalability.
I love it when we get to mix the viral Twitter sphere with some serious academic work. So the roadmap for today is this. We're going to map out how you take what's just in your head, the stuff you just know, and turn it into rules, then into products, and use all that to build a business that scales exponentially, not just linearly.
It's the journey from being a worker bee to, well, being the architect of the whole hive.
Okay, let's start at the absolute root of the problem. Why is it so hard to scale expertise? Why can't I just, hire a junior person and tell them, hey, just do what I do?
Because it always falls apart. And that brings us right to the first big idea from that Tech Republic article. Tacit knowledge.
Right. Let's define that. It sounds a little academic, maybe a little jargony, but it's something we all deal with every single day.
Tacit knowledge is basically the silent killer of growth. It's all the knowledge that's based on your experience, on observation, on just a gut feeling. It's not written down anywhere.
There's no manual for it.
None. You just know it because you've done it 1,000 times. It's like muscle memory, but for your brain.
The article had a great, really grounded example for this. The handyman building a deck.
Yes. The author talks about working with his handyman friend, and this guy picks up a piece of lumber, glances at it, runs his hand over it, and he immediately knows which way to lay the boards so the crown, that slight natural curve in the wood, faces up.
Because if you put the curve up, when you put a load on it, it flattens out. Put it curved down, and it just sags over time.
Exactly. But here's the crucial part. The handyman, he didn't have a physics textbook. He couldn't explain the vector forces or the load distribution. He just knew.
That's tacit knowledge.
And it's powerful for him in that moment, but it is completely unscalable.
Because you can't just email a gut feeling to a new employee.
You can't. And if you tried to make him write a manual, you'd get something like, make sure the wood looks right, which is, totally useless to a beginner.
And this is where it gets really interesting psychologically.
Uh-huh.
Because you'd think, oh, I'll just explain it better. I'll just write it down. But that Tech Republic article brings up a study that Malcolm Gladwell wrote about, the JAM experiment. And it suggests that trying to explain your gut feeling might actually make you worse at your job.
This is one of my favorite parts because it's so counterintuitive. So they have two groups, trained food experts and just regular college students, and they ask them to taste and rank a bunch of strawberry jams.
And at first, they pretty much agreed, right?
I mean, they just tasted and ranked based on instinct, yes. The students and the experts were mostly on the same page about which jams were good and which were bad. The gut feeling worked.
Okay, so where did it all go wrong?
They changed one variable. They asked the students to explain why and describe the texture, the sweetness, basically, to turn their tacit feeling into explicit words.
That just shattered the results.
Completely. The students' rankings went all over the place. The correlation with the experts' choices just vanished.
But why? It's not like talking about it suddenly ruins your sense of taste.
No, but it ruins your fidelity. See, the students didn't have the professional vocabulary, the frameworks to describe a complex sensory experience. So by forcing it into simple words, they actually oversimplified their own judgment. They started reading the gems based on what they could describe, not on what they actually tasted.
That is actually terrifying if you're a business owner. It suggests that the very act of trying to document your process could, I don't know, degrade the quality of the work.
Yeah. It shows you the friction. Converting that tacit gut feeling into explicit knowledge, into a manual, isn't just a typing exercise. It is a translation problem. And if you don't have the right language, you lose all the nuance. You turn a symphony into a ringtone.
But you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to, otherwise you're stuck. You're just the handyman who
Mhm.
has to touch every single piece of wood himself.
You have to do it. It's the only way out of the trap. And that brings us perfectly to that master's thesis on scalability.
Right, the thesis, scalability through productization. The author draws a really stark line in the sand between what she calls linear growth and true scalability.
And it's a vital distinction. Linear growth is the default for most consultants, for most experts. You sell an hour, you get paid for an hour. To make more money, you have to work more hours.
The hamster wheel.
Yeah.
The second you stop running, the money stops coming in.
Precisely. Your revenue line and your cost line, which is your time and your exhaustion, they just go up together in
Right.
parallel. Scalability is when those two lines finally break apart.
The hockey stick graph, the dream.
Revenue shoots up, but your costs, your time specifically, stay relatively flat. The thesis calls it a disruption point. It's that moment you stop selling you and you start selling it.
But getting there is obviously really hard. The thesis actually pointed out something that I have to admit made me laugh. One of the biggest barriers to this wasn't technology or the market. It was just that consultants are lazy.
It's a bit harsh, but I think any expert listening will kind of nod along.
Yeah.
It is so much easier to just do it yourself than it is to build a system so that somebody else can do it.
It's that I'll just fix it real quick problem. It'll take me 10 minutes to do, but 4 hours to explain.
Right. It feels more efficient in the moment to say, just move over, I'll do it, than to spend 3 days building a template that a junior person can use forever. But that short-term thinking, that laziness, is exactly what keeps you trapped.
You're choosing today's convenience over tomorrow's freedom.
Well said. But the thesis also found another benefit to productization that really stood out to me. It wasn't about money. It was about peace of mind.
That was a really human insight.
It was. Think about the stress of being a tacit knowledge expert. Every single project is a new invention. It's a high-wire act. You're improvising constantly. That's incredibly stressful.
You're worried that this time, the wheel you invent might come out square.
Or that you'll forget how to invent it at all. But when you productize, when you have a system, a checklist, you have predictability. You know exactly what a good outcome looks like because you've already defined it.
It just reduces the cognitive load. You're not burning all your best brain power on the basics every single time.
Not at all. And it lets you trust your team. If the process is explicit, a junior person can handle 80% of it, and you just come in for that final 20% of high-level magic. You can't do that if the whole process is just trust my gut.
Okay, so we've got the why. We need to stop being the handyman and start building a system to save our sanity and scale our business. Now we need the how. How do we actually productize?
This is the nuts and bolts of it.
And I think when people hear that word productize, they panic. They think, my work is bespoke, my clients are unique. I can't just sell them all the same cookie cutter thing.
That's the number one objection. I'm not selling widgets, I'm selling wisdom. But the thesis has a great answer for this, a concept called modularization.
I loved this, the Lego analogy.
It's the perfect way to think about it. The Lego bricks themselves are standardized. A red 2x4 brick is always a red 2x4 brick. That's the productized part. It's rigid. It's repeatable.
But when you build with them, isn't.
Never. You can use those same standardized bricks to build a castle for one client and a spaceship for another. You standardize the components in the process, but you tailor the outcomes.
So you stop reinventing the brick every time. You just focus on arranging them in a clever way.
You stop being a brickmaker and you become a master builder.
The thesis had some really good tactical examples of this. I think regulatory compliance was one.
That's the easy win. If you're a consultant helping companies with, say, GDPR or tax law, well, the laws don't change from one client to the next. The rules are the rules.
So you don't need to start your research from scratch every single time.
You build a standardized audit, a checklist, a report template. You sell the process of becoming compliant. The client gets a totally tailored result. Here is where your company is exposed, but the machine you use to find that answer is the same every time.
Benchmarking was another one.
Oh, this is a genius move for anyone who is sitting on a pile of data.
Yeah.
If you've worked with 50 companies in one sector, you have data on their margins, their hiring, everything.
That data itself becomes an asset.
A huge asset. You can sell a report to the 51st client that says, here's how you stack up against the industry average. You're not charging them for your time anymore. You're charging for access to the asset you already built.
And then there's the one everyone's talking about now, AI and automation.
Yeah, the thesis calls it core-only consulting. And it's not that scary when you see it this way. It just means using tools to do the repetitive work. So if you're an SEO consultant, you could spend 10 hours manually checking a client's website for broken links.
Or you could just run a script.
You run a script, it spits out a 50-page report automatically. That report is a product. You didn't write it. You clicked a button. Now your value and what you charge a premium for isn't gathering the data, it's interpreting it.
You're moving up the value chain.
And you're completely detaching your time from the deliverable. That script runs while you're asleep.
Okay, so we've got the Lego bricks, we have our system, we've gone from gut feeling to modular products, but you still have to sell the thing. And selling consulting is hard. It's so intangible.
It requires a huge amount of trust. You're essentially asking someone to pay you thousands of dollars based on the promise that you'll be smart.
Which is a tough sell, especially to a cold lead. But the thesis had this amazing strategy for it called the door opener.
This connects everything together. A door opener is a small, low-cost, fully productized thing that sits right at the top of your sales funnel.
Like what? Give me an example.
It could be anything. A pre-built strategic roadmap template, a small automated audit of their website, something that costs maybe $50, maybe $500, maybe it's even free.
It's like the free sample at the grocery store.
It's a sample that qualifies the customer. That's the key. If a client buys your $100 strategy roadmap template, what have they just told you?
They've told you they have a strategy problem.
They've raised their hand. Exactly. It generates a perfect lead. But more than that, it changes the entire dynamic. They're not just listening to a sales pitch anymore. They're using your product. They're experiencing your expertise firsthand.
And I bet a lot of them buy the template, they try to fill it out themselves, and they realize, wow, this is way harder than I thought.
And that is the perfect sales moment. They realize they have the map, but they have no idea how to drive the car, so who are they going to call?
The person who sold them the map.
Hey, I bought your template. Can you help me actually implement it? And now you're not selling a vague promise, you're selling an upgrade. You're just closing the deal.
So let's pull the camera back. We've taken our gut feelings, we've made them explicit, we've built these modular products to open doors. But what's the end game? Why are we doing all this?
This is where we shift from the mechanics of it to the grand strategy. And that brings us to David Perell and his concept of the personal monopoly.
Right. Perell's whole argument is that the internet has created this winner-take-all economy.
It really has. He has this great line, if you're chasing a trend, you've already lost.
Because if it's a trend, by definition, everyone else is already doing it.
And the internet is global. If you're just a generic graphic designer or a generic consultant, you are competing with literally everyone on Earth, and you will lose on price.
So you can't compete by being the same. You have to compete by being different.
Aggressively different. Perell's math teacher example is, I think, the perfect way to understand this shift from a linear job to a monopoly.
Walk us through that one.
Okay, so a normal third-grade math teacher, they are trading time for money. Their income is capped by the school district, maybe 60 grand a year.
And they can only teach the 30 kids in their physical classroom.
Exactly. But now, imagine a teacher who decides to build a personal monopoly. They combine math teaching with humor and video production. They start a YouTube channel teaching math through comedy skits.
Bill Nye for the TikTok generation.
Exactly. They sell worksheets online. Those are products. They build an email list. They sell a course. What's their earnings ceiling now?
There is no ceiling. Millions.
Millions. And here's the kicker. It is the same core skill. They are still teaching math. But the positioning, the leverage, it's totally different. They're trading products for attention, not time for money.
Perell says you should treat your skills like an investment portfolio.
It's a great way to think about it. You're not looking for just one big skill. You're looking for a combination of skills that's unusual, that's complementary.
So it's not enough to be a writer. It's, I'm a writer who understands B2B sales and has a background in psychology.
Now that is a personal monopoly. The more specific that intersection is, the smaller your competition gets.
Huh.
If you are the only person on Earth who knows about antique watch repair and TikTok marketing, you own that entire niche.
And once you own that little piece of intellectual real estate, use productization to build a fortress around it.
You write the definitive guide, you sell the definitive template, you become the only person who does what you do, just like Jerry Garcia said.
It seems like the internet just rewards specificity.
It rewards the specific, the average gets crushed, the niche gets rich.
Okay, so let's bring this all home for the listener. We've covered a ton of ground. If you're sitting there thinking, I have the skills, I'm just sick of the grind, what is the big takeaway?
The synthesis is that you have to stop just doing the work and start documenting the work. That's the bridge from one to the other.
Let's just run through the flow one last time. Step 1, you start with your tacit knowledge, your handyman skills, your gut feeling.
And you have to acknowledge that even though it's valuable, it's also a trap.
Step 2, you make it explicit. You fight through that awkward jam experiment phase. You find the words, you write down the rules.
You build the manual for your own brain.
Step 3, you productize. You turn your services into those Lego blocks. You build your door opener product.
And you finally separate your revenue from your time.
And step 4, you use those products to build and defend your personal monopoly. You own that unique intersection of skills on the internet.
That's the entire roadmap. But before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one last kind of provocative idea from that Tech Republic article. It's about breaking the rules.
Oh, we just spent this whole deep dive talking about how to make rules.
We did, and you have to make them. But the article makes this brilliant point about what true mastery is. Explicit knowledge, the rules, the templates, that's for beginners. It's essential for getting started and for scaling. But true masters, they know the rules so well that they know exactly when to break them.
The jazz musician thing. You have to learn all your scales before you can improvise a great solo.
Perfect analogy. Or a master sound engineer. The textbook says, place the mic 6 inches from the source. But the master might throw the microphone down the hallway because for that one track, they want a gritty, distant, imperfect sound.
And if a novice did that, it would just sound like a mistake.
Yeah.
But when the master does it, it's art.
Precisely. If you only ever follow the rules, you become a robot. You become a commodity. The goal of all this, of productization, isn't to turn yourself into a machine. It's to build a system so strong that you earn the freedom to be an artist when it really matters.
You productize the boring stuff so you can save your creative energy for the art.
That's it. Build the system so you can afford to break the rules.
Oh, there you have it. Don't just be a worker, be a monopoly. Thanks for diving in with us.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.